2020, am I right? Yeah, hasn't been the best year. I don't think most people would say it was. We're not even 3/4 done with it yet. Oh boy. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Yeah, my last video of the free RPG series, that was a while ago. So, I thought, you know what, I should probably get on to doing that because, I got nothing else better to do, and, well, it's gonna be a while before any other major series after the Iron Man videos ended. But yeah. So I thought I would sit down and do another free RPG review. Now, I haven't had much in the way of time to look up much more free RPGs because Nightmare year. But I remember one I discovered a while ago, and I thought it would be interesting. And funny enough, despite the fact the last video was on the future and transhumanism and that kind of thing, we're now going back to this subject, but in a different context. This time we're talking about posthuman pathways. I hesitate to call this a traditional. It's not really a traditional RPG. Like the mermaid one, it was kind of like it was different, but it was certainly a classic RPG. You had rules for combat. You could do all these different things. Some form of leveling progression, not leveling progression, but leveling up, getting experience, that kind of thing. So the game was definitely a very traditional RPG. In the end, or at the very least, you could play it like a traditional RPG. Posthuman Pathways is different. Posthuman Pathways is a funny game, and one I kind of wish was different, but on the other hand, I kind of like it for what it is. Basically, the idea of this game is that the future, what kind of technology will come out in the not-so-distant future that will change the way humans live fundamentally, as a species, as a society, and that's kind of what it focuses on, but in an interesting way. Now, I'm going to make a few comparisons to the Mermaid game as I go along here, but they're kind of fitting. So, Posthuman Pathways is the idea that the game is around for 3 players, but you can play it to be more if you wanted. It's, once again, totally free, so just pick it up on Drive Thru RPG if you want. You can give them money if you want, but it's totally free if you don't want to. But, so the idea is you make a character, and they have 4 little traits of theirs, that dreams or aspirations or ideals or morale, or something that they consider important themselves, like an ideal or a thing they want to do, or something like that. And they start about late teens to early 20s, or roughly around that point. This isn't like a mechanical stat that you must be in between ages, but just the idea. And the idea is very soon from now, like 5 minutes, 5 seconds, whatever. That's when these people are in their lives. And you play through a scene right after some new technology has been developed, like robotics, genetic engineering, cybernetics, AI, something like that. And there is one person who is the player who plays their character, the one who's the more traditional GM, and then there's the third one who kind of plays the role of kind of moderating the story of keeping things in check and that kind of thing, in the setting that you're creating. And then you'll play through a scene or a conversation or that type of thing in the game. There are no dice, kind of disappointing, but and then your character would have to interact with something, and at the end of that point, then time moves forward. They're in their 30s, 40s-ish, they've grown into adults, they have full-on lives now, usually, and such like that, and this next scene, the technology has come by, has now continued to change the world, is moved forward, and how your characters live in this world, where now they have jobs and responsibilities as the world's changing. And then the scene plays through, all the people make a character and they get to play and such, and then it goes forward again to where they be old men, or old people and such, although theoretically the technology might not have them be old still, but something like that, and then the technology has truly changed the world, and calling it normal human is barely even adequate at this point. They have truly become post-human as a society. At the end of every period in time you play through one of the 3, you have to give up one of those 4 little traits I mentioned. Until the end, you're only left with 1. What did that character truly most value? And It's kind of the game. There are no dice, there's no real mechanics to it, so much as that. And, I mean, it's definitely an interesting concept, though I do admit, when I downloaded the game, I was not expecting that. I was expecting more of a source book, or a full-on RPG, or at least a source book of how to do things. And the cover art kind of is misleading into that in a way, but the cover art is so good, man. I could talk about the cover art for a long time, and forgive my tangent, but now I'm going to tangent on the cover art. I just love it. It's the only piece of artwork in the game, but it is good. Like, it's like, I'm not a big fan. I like symbolism in a piece of art, but only, I don't like it in the abstract way. It's like, oh, look at these random shapes and colors. Look at the deep meaning. I like it when the art itself actually conveys the meaning. Like a knight heroically standing up against a horde of oncoming enemies. That kind of symbolism to it, and this works. And this artwork, this is not abstract art, but this has symbolism. Notice how the hand, the arm, if you will, I'm just probably going to refer to that as the hand, is reaching up to the, what looks to be a pretty utopian science fiction place. Look at all the glory of it. I mean, look at it. It looks nice. You want to live there. It's asking you, like, come on, it's right here, and all I have to do is reach out and grab it. And then you see the fingers, how they change, showing how we don't know what the future holds, and what will bring us to, what could bring us to a utopian, or at least a better world. It's truly evocative. And notice the three fingers, how they choose some very common ways of showing possible futures. We have the robotic finger, which shows the idea of mechanical cybernetics. The tentacle finger, which hopefully isn't a reference to Japanese animation, but is actually a reference. To genetic engineering, how that could do it. Although a tentacle is kind of weird for that choice, but then on the other hand, how else do you show that kind of thing? And then you have the third finger over here, which is a digital type thing, showing perhaps living in a digital consciousness or something, though I would want to live there, but that's a more personal gripe. But I like the symbolism of this art. I think it really conveys what the game is trying to be at its core. The game really could benefit from some mechanics, though. It's too simple, in my opinion. Like, it's a cool game, but it's not really a game you can play. It needs, I mean, you can play it, but it can't really be a game. You can't sit down and be like, yeah, we're gonna play posthuman pathways. Oh, yeah. Grab out your laser gun, boys. Or your tentacles, or whatever. But, it has its merits. I think it would be best I kind of wish it would delve more into the ideas themselves, as it's very let the players decide it, which is nice, but I really felt it would have been interesting if they would have had sections exploring certain concepts or ideas in the setting, like some thoughts or opinions on something. It would have been kind of interesting to hear their perspective on these kind of things, or a perspective, or statistical studies, or what could happen, or some examples, or something. It would have been kind of nice. Like, so this game could really benefit from scenario-type things, or a type thing where it's like, you know how the world's going to change, and you're just going through it. Also, I think it would be very interesting to play this game as sort of yourself in a way. Now, this requires that the players aren't switching around who's essentially leading it, but rather you have a more traditional GM and players, or player, or whatever, and they're going through watching the world change around them. Like, that could be very interesting, and it could be really fun. If I was ever going to play with this, I would either play it as more of a party game. Not really a party so much as less of an RPG and more of a party thing. Like, hey boys, let's come over together and let's play, like, in between our massive board games or something, let's play some posthuman pathways. That sounds fun. You know, it's kind of a party game that you don't really remember except for that one time. It was really fun. It really made you think about deep issues. But, although, honestly, I think one of its big strengths can be used as plugging it into a game system that already has some actual mechanics to it as sort of a modification in a way, or idea. You know, something like GURPS maybe GURPS or another generic system would be kind of useful. Could be kind of used to help it. But I really like the ideas it proposes and questions and such. The idea itself is that what would humanity be willing to trade in order for all this? Like, what as you as the audience, the person viewing this video, be willing to trade for something? If you could give someone immortality, they would never age, or I don't want to say never die because that one's kind of hard to do with. But let's say someone offered you right now, tomorrow, next day, day after you watch this video, and you hear on the news about this miracle technology that can make you never age and you'll be healthy and fit for the rest of time. I mean, what do you do? How does society change from that? Like, what would you be willing to do to claim that? And it's kind of stuff that doesn't touch on as much as I would like it to, but it's really fascinating stuff. Like, for example, like, many people imagine, you see, you go into the Geneto tank, and we throw you in there, and then you, from a normal person, or less than average person, come out looking like you're a Greek god or something. But what if it was a little more complicated than that? Like, that sounds like an easy trade-off. I mean, just like a simple trade-off. But, like, what if you had to do something else? Like, what if it cost a lot of money? Would you see the rich only get it? That's kind of a one idea, but still an idea that holds. Well, I think it's overplayed a bit too much. But, like, what if, in order to achieve this, you had to claim another life? Another life unjustly killed must be claimed in order to get it. Now, that would be kind of hard, because, like, most people wouldn't be willing to kill someone over that. At least I would hope not. You know what I mean? But then again, there are plenty of people who might just do that, and then they have an edge over the people who don't, especially depending on how powerful this ability is. Then you have all these complex ideas, and, like, you can have interesting stuff, like, and then again, of course, what does it mean to be human? Like, at what point does your humanity, at what point do you stop being human? Do you become something less or something more? Can you ever not be human, or is human just a stage in a humanity or development? It's interesting stuff. Like, it's such a interesting idea, and I kind of like that this game tries to help explore it, but it doesn't quite do it in the ways I would necessarily like. Like, I think the Mermaid one comes a bit closer. Mermaid After the End comes a bit closer to a setting where it kind of tries to explore these ideas a bit more, but it doesn't quite get there. It's just, the Mermaid game, as an example, feels almost like it could have been an idea spun from the posthuman pathways idea, but then someone decided to make a setting for it. Like honestly, I think I feel these two have more connection than they probably do, although it's because both of my free 2 RPGs were games on transhuman and posthumans and that kind of stuff. So, never know. But yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And then again, we have to look at the world we're living in now here. Now, I hate to be topical, but we live in some confusing, chaotic times. A simple bug has changed the world, and all these other things that are happening. And yet, here we are, still human. Then, what if something came along that could change all that? It would make you, like, just an example. Once again, tomorrow, someone comes out with this thing. Jump into the Curo tank, and you'll be cured from any virus, or at least the virus we're currently dealing with. I mean, like, sounds like a pretty nice deal, but what do you give up on that? Like, if you continue to change who you are, how long is it before you are who you aren't? If that makes any sense. It's fascinating stuff, and I do like thinking about these ideas, and I find them fun and engaging. I wish more things played with them in many ways, but you have to be clever, and you have to be kind of smart. And you have to be willing to dive headfirst into these. You have to be willing to. And you have to really get into this game, you're going to have to like the idea. And it's definitely some complex stuff, and if you really start looking into it. And I highly recommend that you give it a thought process with or without playing this game. But I highly recommend, as a free RPG, you just download it and then just read it. And then do what I do and then stare at the cover art for a while. Because the cover art is truly good at setting your players up for something like this. And getting those metaphorical creative juices going for this kind of idea. So, game, I mean, I don't know if I ever fully play it except for as, like, once again, as a party type game. But, once again, It could be fun. It definitely has the potential, and I highly recommend that you at least look at it. At least give it a read. And then ponder about it for a bit. Just read it and ponder it. Ponder its ideas. It's good. And if you enjoy pondering it, get some friends together. Play through the game. Or, although I would recommend, maybe play as yourself. Play as you in this situation. It's easy to make up a character who has these ideals and then play through them simply. But then try to come up with your own. What would you be in this situation? What if this happened? I think that has more potential. And I highly recommend you play it that way. That sounds way more fun. Although you have to be kind of careful with how you do it. But then it's essentially a one-shot only game. Campaigns are really not something that happens here, unless you plug it into something else. It has a few other ideas of stuff you could do, like one with like you're on a space colony, which is kind of fun. But it's definitely some good stuff. Definitely a good look a read. Can't really call it a game, but it's fun stuff. I should recommend that you look into it. It's worth your time. It could be fun. And yeah, that's the end of the video. And I just want to give a little closing statement here. I'm happy this channel has done pretty well for itself so far, and I can't wait to see what the rest of the channel has to bring for you guys. And it's just gonna be a fun time, and I hope it's good. I hope I can continue to entertain and deliver on the content that you people wish. And once again, if you want to see more free RPGs reviewed here, please send them down in a link or something. I would like to look at them, especially maybe some more science fiction, posthuman pathways, transhumanism, that kind of stuff like that. That could be fun. I'm on a bit of a roll here with this series with transhuman stuff here, so let's keep it going. In fact, that's my challenge to you. Go out and find me a free transhuman-based RPG, something that really delves into these ideas. Demos don't probably count. It has to be the actual game. And I can't guarantee there'll be next video, or I might just come up with something on my own, but it could be fun. So don't hesitate to put it down in the comments. I would totally like to look into that more. Preferably if I can get off Drive-Thru RPG, that's the best. But yeah, hope you enjoy this video. And well, have fun. This year's crazy.